This is Skyler Steinke with the Alt Funds Network here with my co-host, Mike Schroeder. And today we have the opportunity to speak with Nate Paitchel with OpenEden. Nate is the Director of Growth at OpenEden, a compliance-focused platform bringing tokenized real-world assets like US Treasuries and yield-bearing stablecoins on-chain to bridge TradFi and blockchain. Nate, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, there's a lot going on in this space right now, so we can talk about a lot of different things, but maybe at a high level, Nate, just kind of talk about maybe your crypto story, how you got into the space, because I know you have a pretty interesting background as we talked about in the past personally, how you got into the space and kind of where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of funny. I feel like most people were just in a room somewhere when someone brought up Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency, and then it kind of caught their attention. They forgot about it for a while, and then it came back in the news, and eventually the prices kept going up, and people decided to start paying attention. And that's kind of what happened to me. I heard about it in 2013. There was the first initial big cycle I'd heard of, and then kind of went dead. And then 2015, I was in a room with people from a guy from Google, Uber, and Facebook all at the same time. And they were all talking about this token XRP and that we'd missed Bitcoin and that it was time to go buy this. And I didn't really move on it directly at first, but I couldn't figure out how to buy it. And then there was Bitstamp was the first exchange that opened. So late 2015, early 2016, I can't quite remember. I was wiring money from my bank account to Slovenia, hoping it would show up in this bank account, and then I'd be able to purchase this cryptocurrency. I had no idea how to get it back out, but I did know how to get it there. And so I bought it, and I had half a penny or so, and now today it's over $3. But long story short, I started exploring cryptocurrencies, learned how to actually transmit them from exchange to exchange, started building my network a bit in the space, and then worked professionally in 2020 with DCG, where I joined their parent company, but we can certainly get into that more later.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, great. So I guess catching up to kind of current state today, what are you focused on? And we can get into the specifics of what trends you're seeing in the marketplace, but maybe we could start from there at a high level.
Yeah, well, let's talk about stablecoins because I feel like that's kind of the major narrative.
Let's get into it.
So thinking about back to every cycle that's kind of happened, at least since I've been paying attention to crypto, there's been a narrative attached to it, and there's been a lot of speculation on prices around it. So 2017 was the crazy ICO era. 2020 was NFTs, metaverse. Then this most recent cycle is kind of interesting because it's largely around lending protocols and stablecoins, but stablecoins have really taken over the narrative, and it's different in my opinion this time because it's hard to speculate on the price of tokens. I should also say meme coins had a little bit of success this past couple of years as well. So I think people are kind of over utility and value of these tokens and realizing they're just getting burnt on every price action. At least the retail is. So stable coins, in my opinion, is the first use case that is being widely adopted by blockchain technology. And it's all kind of starting to happen behind the scenes. I mean, you can obviously, if you're a crypto user, you can use Circle, you can use Tether. There's a bunch of other issuers like OpenEden, we have our US dollar, Open Dollar, but there is a lot of different use cases that are being developed. And I think it's primarily targeting the financial markets. But that's what I kind of think where we are today. And it's definitely picking up fast. And I think that it's not going to go away like the other cycles had historically.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack there. Obviously, from kind of the current marketplace, and obviously U.S. regulations being opened up, that's a recent, obviously big push in our direction from a U.S.-centric perspective. But maybe too, even from a global perspective, what are you saying relative to stablecoin? Because that really is where it started, right? Mm-hmm. And then now trickling down to our side on the U.S.
Yeah, so I was giving my perspective on this because I'm not like a true Bitcoin historian by any means. I don't claim to be, but I mean, when I first started playing with crypto, there was Tether, and Tether was widely, people were unsure of what it was backed by, and if it was fully collateralized, what was going to happen, if there was effectively a depeg, and they eventually just kept growing and staying prominent. And they grew with Binance, who was the biggest exchange in Asia. People aren't familiar. But they really kind of took over the market share. And just fun fact, they are like 10 times more profitable than Goldman Sachs. Like they are absolutely money printing machines still today, as Circle and these other issuers have kind of come out. So yeah, back to your question. I think the markets in Asia and other countries certainly were easier to take off first. The US has always been pretty strict in regulations for several reasons. We at OpenEden have certainly looked at the Asian markets first and not tried to compete, I guess you could say, as much in the US market, because it's just been a little bit opaque. Obviously, the Genius bill has just passed, but it's still at a phase where people are trying to kind of fully figure out what that looks like and what you can do. And in the US, you cannot offer yield-bearing stablecoins, which is kind of what OpenEden is our current product out there today. So yeah, Asia is definitely front runner. They continue to be, and then I think the US is starting to catch up at this point. Europe is a little opaque.
With talk to us about with OpenEden. So there's obviously a lot of stablecoins out there. You mentioned kind of yield bearing, but talk to us about kind of what's unique about OpenEden in particular.
Yeah, so Jeremy Ng, our founder, when he set out to make the company, he realized that the stablecoin adoption was not going to happen unless you were regulated. And although Tether was able to grow and become, was largely unregulated, there wasn't really a lot of clarity around the time how they were going to necessarily do so. So Jeremy, ex-Goldman Sachs guy, worked at several other banks, really sophisticated derivatives, product trader, sales guy, just very impressive. CEO, was very excited to join, but he set out like over 2.5 years ago to create T-Bill, which is our tokenized fund on chain, which is just backed by US Treasuries. And so that is one of the two products we have live. It is about 200 million TVL today, fully regulated. There's not much you can do with it. It's just permissioned treasury fund on chain. People use it for corporate treasuries. They're not super scalable, but if you think like BlackRock's Biddle, we now actually have BNY Mellon as our fund manager. And so they are going to take over the fund manager, the custodian part of that as well. But I'm not going too deep in the hole there. OpenEden also has the US Open Dollar, like I just mentioned earlier. So that's the DeFi composable stablecoin. That is also backed by US Treasuries. It will never change from being backed by US Treasuries. We want to have a secure and regulatory compliant token that people would be able to accept on payment rails and adopt across the world. So Jeremy, yeah, although it stifles growth at the beginning, like if you look at something like Athena, who has grown to near 7 billion today, they're unregulated. And even if you look, they're doing great work over there, but when they tried to get regulated in Germany, not only were they fined something like $600,000, don't quote me on that number, they were actually asked to leave the country. So regulation was key. We're in a current sandbox era with the Bermuda authorities, so they basically have capped their TVL at certain limits. That cap has now increased drastically, and we're very close to getting our full F charter to uncap us. But that was kind of the mission, like grow slow but grow correctly, and we have a lot of additional products that will come to the market in the same regulated fashion.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So the USDO, the yield-bearing stablecoin you guys have, how is kind of just maybe unpack a little bit how that's different from traditional stablecoins out in the marketplace today, from a real-world asset perspective, what you guys are doing in that regard.
Yeah, well, first off, I think stablecoins are too broad of a term. I think Athena is effectively a synthetic dollar. There's trading strategies behind coins. There's coins that are managed by funds, but how we kind of think about US dollar and how it's different is it basically is just a rebasing stablecoin. So every single day it accumulates value at every specific, I believe it's 8 a.m. Eastern time. And so the holders will effectively get the yield, the APY that is annualized each day. And then if you could actually wrap that token as well, and then get into DeFi vaults, loop it, run different strategies, actually be able to have more utility with that token. And the DeFi traders and power users certainly take advantage of that. How it's different from competitors, like I think our closest competitor, or at least the company, would be is Ondo. So they have a governance token. We have an upcoming governance token. They have their yield-bearing stablecoin, and then they do white label services for people as well. We are probably close to that. Just we are also again regulated, they are not. So yeah, there's a lot of technical differences of how stablecoins kind of are made, but I largely don't believe that's going to be the differentiator of who succeeds in this. I think it's going to be more about distribution, the different types of products you can bring on board as well.
Mm-hmm. A couple follow-ons to that. When it comes to earning the rewards here, is it if I have $1 today, you mentioned every day at 8 a.m. you get paid out the rewards. So does my wallet have $1.001 in it at the end of the day? Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah, so if you're just holding USDO, you accumulate the nominal value each day. So it'd basically be like 1.001. If you wrap the token, it's a little bit cleaner for it to we actually distribute more tokens each day. So it stays pegged 1-to-1, but effectively it works way cleaner with exchanges and different protocols to actually do that model. So if you think about it, like it literally distributes tokens, tiny little fraction of tokens to every single holder, over more than 20,000 different wallets every single day. So yeah, two different mechanisms there. The product team did a great job making it.
And then let's touch on regulations a little bit as well. When it comes to regulations, kind of talk to us about, we don't need to get too much into like the Genius bill, but talk to us about kind of what you're seeing throughout the globe.
Yeah, I think, well, actually, it's probably a little easier to start with the U.S. and Genius. So we're navigating what that's going to look like in the issue to the states. I think most people are, and so Anchorage Digital is the first digital trust company. They have a bank that's like backed by Digital Trust. So they are now coming out with a product that will allow you to effectively issuers to come out with a Genius compliant stablecoin. And so when we kind of look at regulation, I think we specifically from my point of view, we think about like, okay, which areas can we really gain market share and which areas are going to be very difficult with regulation, and the opaque areas are certainly difficult. So any country that's like sanctions, the US who's cracking down, Singapore is cracking down, I think like those are the markets that were pretty just there's no point to go in there right now. But when you go look at Asia, it's pretty much open seas, and they don't necessarily allow you to commit fraud, which is good. If you want to be licensed and regulated, you're going to have to follow somebody's rules. But we particularly really like working with the Bermuda authorities. I'm going out there next week or the week after just to go meet with the regulators. They'll go sit down with you in person. They'll talk to you. They'll have a conversation. It's a very productive way to actually build businesses and actually grow this industry together. And I think they have a big mandate to do so. So yeah, I'm curious if you guys, just from your point of view, if you've seen different regulatory bodies treat digital assets differently. Mike, I know probably talks a lot about this at the TIE and at the Out East conference last week.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, not terribly deep in the weeds, but obviously the Genius bill is going to be helpful for kind of just like the larger traditional financial institutions kind of get into the space from what I'm seeing. The aspect about in terms of like tokenization and the yield bearing, that seems to be kind of more of the issue that groups are trying to tackle. Kind of coming back to the Genius bill, I understand it's still kind of a no-fly zone, if you will.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the banks locked that down as a way to keep making money for the yield and taking that bill, right? Not just my personal opinion, but
I completely agree. It's kind of interesting, right? Because it's great for the U.S. government to be able to effectively be all these stablecoin distribution partners for treasuries overseas, but the banks are effectively missing out from that. So it's a weird. I think it's going to take a little time. I think it's inevitable yield-bearing stablecoins will be permitted in the U.S., but it's interesting for now. It's just definitely not going to fly anytime soon.
Yeah. You brought up earlier distribution. What does that look like from your lens? As far as market share and adoption.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been in crypto for a while and only worked at it professionally for about 5 or 6 years. But what I've noticed is, I've worked with a lot of founders and a lot of companies, is everyone wants to be a tech provider. No one wants to actually go out and do the work and be the sales guy and figure out what actually where there's demand and then in use cases. So typically people get caught up, like I just said, building, and then you go out to market and sure enough, you're out of money. It's too late. But Jeremy, being a good sales guy and having that TradFi background, has really done a tremendous job of just having worldwide distribution. So we, aside from the countries we just mentioned, we have holders of USDO and T-bill, all across the world. I think our presence is very strong in Southeast Asia. We will probably continue to attack that area pretty aggressively. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what people want until you start talking to them, right? So we're big, and not to diss Biddle and BlackRock by what they're doing by any means, but I think 3 of their largest holders control something like 70%. I gotta get fact checked on all this.
It's significant.
Yeah. One of which is Athena, and like it's very like it's not the type of distribution that you'd think it'd be for the size of the number. And not to say that we're gonna match the TVL of Biddle anytime soon, but I do think that having the distribution is key, and they'll allow us to create more products that people want and work with good partners along the way.
Right.
What are you guys seeing in terms of like who is kind of the current adopters right now?
Yeah, so it's funny because I feel like everyone talks about the payment service providers and the banks and the fintechs, but I feel like they're the slowest to move, especially with the payment service providers. I mean, effectively, all you can really offer is an earned product, which you can't do in the U.S. because you'll get sued because it's effectively a yield-bearing stablecoin. I think that where the most adoption is happening is for yield-bearing stablecoins. It is definitely amongst the trading desks and the prime brokers, people starting to get into digital asset trading strategies, and then it's more RWAs come on board, like private credit, those sort of fixed income products. That will open up the door for those traders even more. So I hate to say it's a lot of trading that's still going on right now, but that's where I'm mostly seeing it. We do have some pretty unique use cases and conversations we're starting with banks in the southeast portion of Asia, and talking about some sort of FX overlays to help all their rails and all their e-commerce go on a stable coin system, which will effectively allow them to have a much more efficient process, but also just be able to capitalize on that earned product as well. So whether think about how we split the yield with the customers, with the clients, it's a lot more flexible out there in Asia when you are restricted from doing it here in the US. So yeah, I didn't answer your question great, but I think a lot of it, unfortunately, is still the traders. But I think the opportunities for traders are growing tremendously in the Web3 space.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I guess,
and they're holding dollars anyway, kind of lowest hanging fruit.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the easiest sales pitch of all time. Just give them a yield bearing stable coin as opposed to the dollars. But yeah, I think there's some pretty unique use cases coming. There's a few things we're under NDA on that I can't share on the podcast, but some pretty unique use cases. There's some pretty large potential customers we're talking to, and grand visions of what this is going to eventually look like. I just think it's going to take a little bit to get there. And right now, the low hanging fruits is traders.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess kind of getting into, we talked a good amount about stable coins and, more on the token issuance or tokenization side. That's another part of what OpenEden does. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. So, similar to, kind of like Ondo or Securitize, we do the full white label and then tokenization. But I feel like if you Google that, you'd see 20 companies that come up. I think we do things a little bit differently. First of all, we're highly selective with our partners. We're not just going to tokenize something. It doesn't, just because you tokenize, a piece of real estate does not make it liquid. Like, we want to make sure there's actual use cases and there's value being brought to our, to our customers that are already working with us. So we do white label solutions, and it's actually pretty unique where we can actually use our existing licenses and regulatory bodies to issue out of. So our Bermuda entity, we can actually make a segregated account company, and so not just give them like, hey, here's your tech stack, and then we run away. We actually can onboard them into the Bermuda, and then introduce them to fund managers that we're working with, and then also all the Skyler, everything that you work with, like the lawyers, the fund administrators. So we truly help them the complete end-to-end solution, as opposed to just trying to be that middleman tech layer.
Yeah. So those are good things. Let's maybe unpack a little bit. And this is obviously we've always spoken about this many times. The current use cases are what we see for tokenization, right? What is being tokenized and and why specifically? Because I think that we always talk about that, because people want to tokenize to your point, but what is actually moving the needle these days in the process? I know from my side of things, I'm more on the fund admin side. We're seeing, distribution that's more, Asia specific or non-US specific with, ATSs and those rails being built and actually having liquidity, right? Liquidity is the end all be all, but I'm just curious, when you having clients come to you saying, hey, we want to tokenize something, what are the kind of the main use cases that you can share, current state?
Yeah, I mean, we typically work with the highly liquid assets. As you can imagine, the money market funds, we're exploring different products like, AAA products, bonds, high yield bonds. We're exploring even private credit, which is a little bit more difficult just with the liquidity constraints, but try to stick to what works for now as opposed to the future high in the sky ideas. I mean, I on a personal level, I'm super interested with tokenizing IP. Thinking more of like sports, entertainment, ownership, stakes and things. Sure, it gets really messy on a legal standpoint, but I think there is a path for some of that coming, especially with new, call it sports organizations or new sorts of IP that comes to the market. But for us at OpenEden, we're sticking mostly to financial products and highly liquid. I mean, our whole goal is to grow like in the DeFi markets, be a highly liquid stable coin, grow the TVL of it, and then effectively start bringing other unique use cases on board. But no one's going to touch it unless it's highly liquid. So the money market funds have been huge. I think now we're kind of shifting to some unique other products when Treasury rates inevitably drop in the near future.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess any other narratives you're seeing on that side of things from a tokenization point of view, as kind of markets are opening up in the US, obviously that's a new phenomenon, right? Because this has been a buzzword for a while. You have tokenization, you have stablecoin activity, you have AI wrapped into that narrative somehow too, from a DeFi perspective. You have all the above. So just curious.
Yeah, I mean, try to speak to what I know. I mean, I know there's some AI stuff out there that's kind of interesting. You'll see a headline about some real estate getting tokenized pretty much every single day. I mean, I think what's unique in some of those more liquid assets is the lending that can kind of come out of it. So just having lending be on chain and just have a more efficient process than what's typically existed in the past. Real estate debt, private credit debt, public debt. Like I think a lot of these things are going to be kind of next things to come on board. Like I said, at OpenEden, we're just going to stick to good ideas that are going to move the needle for the company. I mean, we are a mid-sized company and do not have time to explore high in the sky ideas that are going to take 5 years to materialize. So, I think there's definitely a future state where a lot of this is going to get super interesting. But for now, I think it's going to take a while to build those rails.
Yeah. And I guess to your point, this is personal opinion on your side, but just curious from the US, obviously just opening up the regulation doors, if you will. Are we able to catch up? I mean, we're kind of behind on a few different areas. This narrative, I'm just curious. Yeah.
I think, I mean, I think the U.S. has not just being a proud American. I think the U.S. has a way of, I mean, I think we're 50% of the GDP. And again, I'm making up stats, but I'm pretty sure we're something like that. We have a lot of control over the markets. And I think that you're seeing that with tariffs and, not to go down a rabbit hole, but effectively like some of those costs being, it's kind of passed over to consumers. And there's even speculation that the same thing's going to happen with stable coins. Like, okay, so when you squeeze the payment service providers, like who's going to eat the additional fee? Is it going to be the consumer, or is this actually going to get cheaper for the consumer? So I think the U.S. has a way of kind of playing this correctly. I think they're going to continue to be a little bit slow because they have so much to lose when it comes to regard to their, the Treasuries being effectively the golden standard of dollars in the world. But I would say in all the emerging countries, people would rather hold the U.S. dollar than hold, sometimes their native country's currency. And so until that changes, I don't really see the U.S. losing an edge. Well, yeah, for the time being, I think the crypto industry has kind of been stifled, but the U.S. can catch up very fast.
Yeah, I'm of that same opinion as well. We can definitely we have a lot of resources to move things forward quickly in the U.S. Curious, like any challenges you're seeing still in the space from a blockchain fintech rails perspective. Obviously you guys you're regulated in Bermuda, but I'm sure you're talking to a lot of different folks in this space. I mean, you mentioned also corporate treasury I see that as well being a very popular conversation for a lot of reasons out here as well. But yeah, just love to hear your thoughts.
I think the thing, we're on a bit of a roadshow right now doing some fundraising, and I think I won't call it confusion, but just kind of the difficulties that I have are comparing, the comparisons to all these other companies that are spinning up stablecoins, companies in house that are just deciding to launch their own stablecoins. It's like they're almost like starting to do what certain banks were doing back in the day, where they're trying to like create this closed loop system, which effectively is never going to work at scale. And so when we kind of are positioning ourselves, there is a lot. It's very easy to go out and make a yield bearing token these days. Like anyone can do it and put it in corporate treasury. But explaining the difference of, okay, look, we are a regulated entity. This is like, go do your, I'm talking to very sophisticated traders and people that just want to make sure that they're not going to lose their customers' money. It takes them a while to get through all the due diligence of our very public documents. And so when you're dealing with blockchain, if you're missing something on the dotted line, you got a rug pull. So I think there's still a lot of transparency issues in the space, and there's been so many bad actors that it just takes a very long time to kind of understand who the good and who the bad players kind of are. But there's also to that other end, we've had tremendous support from all of our customers, corporate treasury. We were the first tokenized money market fund on the XRP ledger. Ripple's been a very supportive partner. We're on Arbitrum. And so I think a lot of these players did look at OpenEden before I came here and saw the reputation behind Jeremy and the product that he had built. So I think we definitely have an edge there. It's just a bit of a learning curve now, especially with just the narrative going a little bit crazy.
I was also curious just with BNY, can you tell us a little bit about how that relationship came to be, and kind of does it kind of give you more of a door into the US?
Yeah, well, it effectively, the biggest advantage it does right now. So we were already able to issue T-bill to the US, but now we are effectively uncapped in how much, there's no limit on TVL that we can effectively distribute worldwide at this point. So that's one major win. Having Boney's name behind us is just a huge reputational stamp for the company. I mean, especially as we are trying to. There's a lot of money here in the U.S., a lot of TVL to capture in the U.S. I think working with someone like BNY can certainly help, a company that's more widely known out east, get a better reputational standpoint here in the U.S. as well. But yeah, so that relationship, they have largely taken over the fund management portion of the funds. We're going to help grow it together. We're going to hopefully get them some more business as well as we launch new products and potentially with other white label partners. But yeah, they are, a large organization, and they hadn't really made a move yet in the space when it comes to this specifically. So it was a really big win for us. And it's funny, when I first met Jeremy in March in New York, he was here for DAS, and he'd said two things, one of which was the BNY partnership, which was underway, and then there was one other thing he'd mentioned, and both of which had materialized already. So he kind of walks the talk, and yeah, it's been a long time coming, and I think this BNY thing is going to really take off for us. Announcements coming soon, so hopefully by the time this is released, that'll be out.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah, more to come on that, right?
For sure.
When is Alpha Games taking place, and are you recording it?
Good point of recording on the why I've never done that. So Alpha Games is a backyard. I would call it marathon that I do with like 16 of my friends from a mixture of high school and college. All guys, needless to say, where it's a mixture of sports and drinking games. The whole point system, competition system. We did miss 1 year. It wasn't even during COVID, but we missed 1 year just due to too many weddings and bachelor parties. And fortunately, I think that's going to happen again this
Oh,
year.
really?
But there's just too many people in the same group getting married. And when you start to have kids and wives, you can't get out that much. But the Alpha Games is really fun. We've done it like 6 or 7 years already. And I'm sure any of my friends watching this would hate me by saying that I've won 3 of them years, but they should just do better next time.
I love it. That's awesome. That's really cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
we got our my fantasy football draft coming up a couple weeks here. Kind of basically just a repeated bachelor party. So I'm pumped for it.
Are you doing it in person?
We're doing in person. We're gonna do. It sounds kind of similar to the Alpha Games. There's bench press involved, little beer pong, Mario Kart, all the fun stuff packaged into a combine.
That's awesome.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, I feel like you gotta do that at least once a year with the guys, because once you start missing it, it's you'll never get that back. It's hard to say that you can just go out and go drink for 24 hours with your friends for no reason.
Yeah.
I hope you win that and get the first pick, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Very
awesome. Well, Nate, this has been a lot of fun, man. Appreciate you taking us on the rabbit hole with stablecoins and RWAs. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about OpenEden?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. We'll drop the handle here. Telegram is usually the place where I'm out in the most these days, but OpenEden.com. We keen to talk to new partners, new issuers, lots of different ways we can work with people. I would say, just one last final plug. We just got USDO announced on Binance's Cefu custody partner. Sorry. Binance has a custody partner called Cefu, which effectively is their cold storage wallet. And so institutions can now hold cold storage and then trade margin on the centralized Binance exchange. And historically, only Tether and Circle were they'll recognize stablecoin collateral, and now USDO is also recognized collateral there. So it's very interesting for the prime brokers. And if you'd like to chat about that, I'd be more than happy to connect. So so let me make that sneak in that final plug.
Yeah, first mover advantage. I like it, man. That's awesome. Congrats. Amazing.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
That was the other thing Jeremy said during my first conversation with him. So both of them true.
I like a little cliffhanger to the end. I like that.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on, though. And obviously you guys run a great podcast, and really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, we appreciate it as well, man. Great to have you on and good conversation. I'll make sure to include all your information in the show notes. This has been good. Good to see you, brother.